Hello, welcome to the second lesson. We ended the previous lesson with a bug where Chris disappeared at a certain distance from the player. This is because Albam Redux does not import distant LODs, level of detail meshes, by default, because of this import settings. Practice shows that no one in their right mind creates them. It is a tedious and time-consuming process. As a simple alternative, we can assign the meshes a level of detail value of 255, which will make them always visible. For this, there is a setting in the export menu that overrides the values automatically. Now it works.
One important thing to note is that archives added to the import panel are not stored within the blend file. Instead, they act as links to the file that is created when you add the archive. If you click Import again, it will either load the modified mod file or display an error message if the archive has been moved or deleted.
Today, we are going to be dealing with more in-depth stuff that might be difficult for beginners to understand. So again, I recommend taking a quick Blender course if you've had no experience with it. The list of topics you need to understand is navigation, what is mesh, skeleton, skinning and rigging, and finally textures and UV coordinates. I have slightly different Blender settings. I have object selection assigned to the right mouse button, and I also have a mode switching menu on tab. My previous lessons where I demonstrated the principles of working on standard Blender objects turned out to be difficult for beginners to understand, so I will create a real mod. Chris Warrior will also serve as the base, so the first mod must be disabled. I have prepared one static model, and I will use parts from my previous mod. The first will be the Immortan Joe mask. The model is already prepared, so after importing it, it ended up where it should be. Yours will most likely have to be adjusted using the Move, Rotate and Scale tools. The model is separated into many parts. This can be a bit inconvenient for further actions, so if possible, combine them by same materials.
In my case, imported meshes are attached to the parent object named group. for your model to appear in game, it needs to be attached to the imported skeleton, which will be the parent node in this case.
To do this, select the model, then hold down Shift and add the skeleton to the selection. Then press Ctrl P with the Object option. Unfortunately, the object disappeared. It means that there were some transformation values on it. Let's cancel the operation and redo everything properly. First, detach the meshes from the parent node. Select all objects, menu, Object Parent Clear, and keep transformations. The parent node group itself is no longer needed. Now you can see that all meshes have non-zero transformation, and this is a problem. To reset them, you need to select them, then go to Object, Apply, All Transforms. Now you can attach these meshes to the parent skeleton node. To export this model, it must have the armature modifier and vertex groups with the correct weights. For this model, it is easier to do this manually by adding a vertex group, selecting all the vertices of the mesh, and applying a weight of 1.0 to them. But as you can see, the bone names have numbers instead of names. This can be fixed with the Auto Renamer tool. Now most bones have names that you can work with. Add the armature modifier to the jaw. Add a vertex group and name it Head. Go to Weight Paint mode and select all vertices. Then set the weight to 1.0 for the vertex group Head. Now it works. And now we repeat these operations for all other meshes for a long and tedious time. The sequence of actions does not matter. You can also paint skin weights as usual, but this is impractical for a single vertex group. Finally, everything is ready. But there is another problem here. The meshes use quads when the game only supports triangular polygons. All meshes need to be triangulated using the triangulate modifier. You can edit for only one mesh, then select all the others and add this one with the modifier last. Then it will have the option to copy the modifier to the selected one. After that, you need to apply each of the triangulate modifiers. Almost everything is ready for the test. The only problem is with the material. It definitely won't work because you need to use the empty framework shader group for export. For testing, it will be easier to clone a similar material and then replace the textures in it. I use this material for all meshes. Exported without errors. That's a success. Now you need to create a folder with the new mod in the mod manager. An easy way to create multiple folders is to launch the console with File Explorer by entering cmd in the path field. In the console itself, you need to enter the mkdir command and the path with multiple folders. Save the archive to the newly created folder. Update the mod list, enable the new mod, and launch the game. Something is clearly wrong. I probably missed a few meshes when applying the transformations. Yes, it is. I will enable the option to export only visible meshes, because Chris doesn't need glasses. There is a not entirely safe but quite convenient method of hot swapping archives. The game only reads it when loading a game level. That is, it can be updated in the game itself. When you turn off the mod manager, it will also restore the original archive as before. Well, that's much better. I missed this mesh when I applied the Triangulate modifier. Time to convert textures. To do this, you need to create a folder for the mod and then save the blend file there.
The imported textures themselves need to be unpacked from the blend file, so let's switch to the original material for a moment.
Here are the textures in PNG format. You need to open them with GIMP. Fortunately, those textures without an alpha channel, diffuse and specular maps, can still be saved as BC1. There is a certain problem with normal maps. Normal blue maps need to be edited by moving the red channel to the alpha channel. This trick is from the old days when not all textures channels were converted with the same quality. For BC3, the best quality was in the alpha channel. To do this in GIMP, click on Colors, Components, Decompose RGB. This will convert the channels into layers. You need to duplicate the red one and move the duplicate to the very bottom. The red channel itself needs to be filled with white. After that, the image can be reassembled into channels. Colors, Components, Compose RGBA. Save the texture with BC3 compression. Now saved textures can be applied to the model. That's much better. There is an important part here that when adding new textures, you need to enter additional attributes to their export. In this case, it is the name of the game and the relative path to the texture in the archive. I copy the path from the original imported texture and edit the name. This can be very tedious, so there is an autosetter tool. Just select the game, paste the relative path into the field, and it will fill these parameters for the materials of the selected meshes. Exporting again. Well, that's much better. Okay, for some reason I named the vertex group neck instead of head.
The last thing I would like to talk about is leaked textures.
Unlike Blender, games cannot store UV and edge information separately. Where UV seams occur, the edges must be separated. For this, there is a tool called Split UV Seams. These leaked textures are not very noticeable on the mask model, so I will demonstrate how they look on the sphere. As you can see on the UV seams, the textures have leaks. To fix this, select the mesh and use the Split UV Seams tool. Let's test it. Everything looks as it should. Now I'm going to apply this tool for my mask model. Now you can save it in the mod folder.
That's all for today. It was a long lesson, and I hope you learned something from it. See you again in the next one.